PowerSchool is kind of the school record, if you will, of everything about your student. Their school records are housed in PowerSchool, so it's a very important tool that we use. So once you get logged in, I have posted here what it looks like on the website view and also on the application view. So if you have the app up on your phone, you can download the PowerSchool and Schoology app actually on your phone once you've created an account. Okay, you have to create it online first, and then you can sign in on a mobile device. So on a mobile device, it's going to look like the pictures that I have on my slides on the left. And then the online version you're going to see on the right. So the website view and the application view are both shown. They do look very different, but they say the same information just in different ways. Once you get into PowerSchool, it's going to take you to your student's dashboard. Okay. In the dashboard, the most important thing on the dashboard is overall their classes and overall the fees or any meal balances you might have on the account. So make sure that you're paying those beginning of the school year fees. You can click on it, and then you can pay it online, or you can also bring in a check to Mrs. Fries, as she is our business manager, so you can make sure that that gets paid. You can see on the website view it says pay fees here, so click that and make sure you get that done sooner rather than later. And then once you get in there, you'll be able to see your students' overall grades. So it's really not that different than Schoology is. It just transfers it over into your students' final records. So Schoology and PowerSchool, they talk to each other. So Schoology tends to be the fastest way to find the information. So again, the homework is posted there. If your student submitted homework, you can see it on Schoology. Then once the homework is graded, then the grade gets transferred over to PowerSchool, and that's where you'll see your students' final grades. So your final term grades, the final grade for the class, your student's schedule will always be in PowerSchool, as well as your student teacher's name and the order in which those classes go. So on Schoology, it puts them all on there, and you don't know what order they go in. On PowerSchool, it shows you what their periods are. For this student schedule, it says MS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have 6 periods in the day, and so they're in order there, and they also say the teacher's name underneath. And on the online website view, you can see that it's a blue hyperlink, so you can actually email Dylan Joseph, that's Mr. Dylan, the teacher for World Studies. So you can click that and you can email him. Almost all of our teacher names, by the way, are just their last name at themetroschool.org. There are a couple of exceptions because there's been repeated last names. So on PowerSchool, you can see overall grades, teachers' emails. You can also see grade detail, okay? So same thing you can see on Schoology, you can see on PowerSchool as far as grades go. But again, these are kind of the finalized grades, their school record, if you will. So you can see the category, the due date, the assignment name, any score or comments that teachers left, the percentage grade, and then the overall grade. So you can click more details to view, but overall you'll see the thing that you want to look at on PowerSchool is foundational or mastery, the name of the assignment, which again, this is coming straight from Schoology. So Schoology and PowerSchool are friends. Schoology, teachers create the assignment, and then PowerSchool records it in their records. So these scores, okay, they will update and change as teachers update and change them on Schoology. So as you may notice on here, there's like a little icon the green arrow is pointing to, and that means that a teacher has left a comment. So when you click on that, you'll see this. It says, looks good, make sure you have separation between the first and second session each day. So the teacher has left a comment for your student so that they can make improvements. You can also see, if it says missing or, hey, you turned in the wrong assignment, you might be able to see a note on there. You can also see on PowerSchool, you can see your students' attendance. Our attendance is a little bit weird here online because we have an A day schedule and a B day schedule. So you'll see on the website view and also on the dashboard on the app view, you'll see that you only are going to periods 1, 2, and 3, or 4, 5, and 6. So the attendance looks a little bit spread out, and that's totally fine. So you'll see anywhere where it says absent or absent unexcused or tardy unexcused, you'll see all of that on the attendance. If there's something wrong with your child's attendance that you notice, please give us until the end of the day as we're doing things live. We're updating live. Our attendance secretary is working diligently to keep attendance up to date. So if your student arrived late to class, so we called you and we arrived late to class, then it'll be changed eventually, but for a minute it might show up that they were absent, okay? And the reason for it to show up, for teachers to put them in as absent, is because then the system may call you and let you know, or at least that gives us an opportunity to give you a call and to get your student into class. So those are kind of the main things that you see on Powerschool. Okay, Powerschool, again, is the core record keeper of your students' information. On there, you can pay fees, you can pay lunch, you can see attendance, you can see grades, you can see teachers' emails, you can see comments left by teachers, and that's pretty much the core of it. So that's Powerschool. Powerschool is kind of like, think of Powerschool as your grade card or your report card. We don't send out report cards, just so you know. So your report card is a constant updating item, and it is Powerschool. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about their, Mrs. Oaks was mentioning all of the acronyms that we use, and so I wanted to revisit this slide. And if you've been at Metro for any length of time, you've seen this slide, because we use this slide on every intro meeting, and we use it all the time to discuss Metro. So we know that Metro is a mastery grading model, so that means that we have work in progress or a mastery. Okay, so we have two grades, work in progress or mastery. So mastery is represented on all of our grading as an M in parentheses, so it says M. Okay, that stands for mastery. That does not stand for missing. We had the parent think that M stands for missing, and they were like, my kid's missing all their assignments. I'm like, no, actually they're mastering all their assignments. So the M stands for mastery, and that means that your student has achieved a 90% or above on that assignment. So they have mastered that content. If they've scored anything below that, they have scored a work in progress, and that just means they need more time to work on the material. Okay? Traditional grading, of course, is A, B, C, D, F, okay? And those are not the letter grades that we use at Metro at all. Okay, so here is the definitions that you were looking for. Hopefully this is helpful. We did add a new grading definition to Metro. I just described mastery, a work in progress, but we actually added an additional grading category on Powerschool this year, and it's a DNA, a did not attempt. So if you see a DNA, that means that the student did not turn anything into that Dropbox. So we wanted to differentiate for you those items that your student's still working on, so meaning they did it, but they got maybe 15% on it because they totally missed the main concept, they didn't score really well on it. That's okay. They're going to go back and remediate it. It's a work in progress. They're still working on understanding that material. But if they turned in nothing, the teacher has nothing to grade and nothing to give feedback on, and that's really, really challenging because we can't see where to help students if they don't turn in what they have at the time. So we have added a grading acronym called DNA, did not attempt, and so when you see that, you'll see basically that means that your student didn't turn anything into the Dropbox. Okay, and the Dropbox are those little icons that Mrs. Oaks was showing you on Schoology. They just click there and they upload a file into the Dropbox. If they didn't upload a file into the Dropbox and it's past the due date, then a 0 will go in for that and it will show did not attempt. Okay, so that's a little differentiation between mastery, work in progress, and did not attempt. And the acronyms for those are M, WIP, and DNA. So we also wanted to clarify our remediation practices. Remediation is a really, it's a challenging thing to describe to those of us that went to traditional school, right? Most of us went to traditional school where you turned something in once and you got a C on it and that was it. Well, of course, we are a mastery school, so we can turn in remediation and work on understanding and learning the material past the due date. The teachers, as a team, we wrote a remediation policy to try to help students turn in assignments on time and also help students understand the remediation process. So the first thing we have written out for students, and this has been in your student syllabus, so you may have seen this, if you think that your child's going to need an extension on an assignment, we are asking that you send an email to request at least a day in advance, not the night of, not the night before, but at least a day in advance asking for an extension, okay? So the teacher may still ask you to submit whatever work you have completed by the due date, and that's something new. So I want to say that again. If your student is not ready to submit a final, you know it's not going to be at mastery, okay? What we're asking is that students turn in whatever work they have at that time, Okay, that is so important because even if they only got the first part of a project done or the first part of a paper done, at least being able to give some more feedback or comments to that assignment will really help them continue and get that assignment done and up to mastery. So submit your work on time is our next expectation. If your work is partially complete, submit what you have for feedback by the due date. So that's what I just was talking about. If you have not submitted an assignment by the due date, you must come to a scheduled time for support demonstrating mastery of the learning target during office hours. So if a due date has gone by, that probably means that your student needed more help understanding how to do the assignment or didn't understand the content. If they were able to complete no part of that. We would hope that they would be asking for help all along, but if they didn't, we are encouraging them to sign up they actually don't even need to sign up online, they just show up in the online office hours room, and I'm going to talk about who has office hours on what day here in a second. If the work is graded and it's not at mastery, so if it receives a work in progress, a WIP, then you're going to review the feedback given by the teacher. A lot of times it's going to be a rubric if it's a paper or a project, or it could be a comment like you would have seen, like I just showed you on Powerschool. And then there's going to be some remediation that your child has to do, and it depends on the subject. It depends on their grade level a little bit. And it could include things, it could include a multi-step thing, or it could include one step. It just depends. Because if a student got a 15% on a test, that means they might have more things to do in order to get that information up to mastery. Whereas if they got an 85% on a test, that means they may have only missed one little thing that they can tweak and get remediated. So some things that could show up in the remediation instructions as a reflection on the assignment, taking a look at what you have and haven't learned, doing unfinished foundational assignments for extra practice. So those foundational assignments we're giving are not just for filler. They are actually practicing and preparing students for that mastery assignment. So if they got a 15% on their math test, that probably indicates that they didn't do any of the math homework. So the first step in remediation is going to be to go back and do that math homework that was originally assigned. Then work in class to remediate through reteaching, extra practice, or corrections. Okay, so the teacher may pull a small group or may pull an individual student and say, hey, look like you needed help with this, let me help you. Coming to office hours for a little extra help if it isn't making sense. I cannot recommend office hours enough. Start doing office hours before there's an issue. And maybe being reassessed on the content or skill, meaning retaking part or all of the test. Okay, so again, it depends. It depends on the subject. It depends on how much the student missed. But these are the general things that you're going to see. Okay, then we're asking students to complete the remediation process 2 weeks from the date of the original assignment was given back. So let's say they turned in a paper, then the teacher gets it back 3 days later. From that 3 days later, then they have 2 weeks to remediate that paper to get it back. Okay, so we're trying to give students a little bit more parameters and helping them keep track of prioritizing and not letting remediation build up. Because as returning parents will tell you, students can get really bogged down with remediation and then they save it all for the end of the semester, and then that leads to a lot of stress and anxiety. We don't want to have that. So our teachers are amazing. They have split up so that we can offer 3 days of optional office hours. Office hours are basically like what we're doing right now, but your student joins in and then they're able to turn on their mic, turn on their camera if they'd like, ask a question, get help. Teacher can walk them through something, can re-explain. This is an optional time for students to work directly one-on-one with their teachers. So on Tuesdays from 2 to 3, and every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2 to 3, there are different subject areas that have office hours. So you can see the list of teachers there. Okay, so on Tuesdays, English teachers and science teachers, as well as Miss V, our intervention specialist, have office hours. So on Tuesday, it would be great to just get in the habit of sending your student to those office hours. They can even just sit and do their homework, and then if they get stuck on something, then they can ask the teacher. If they don't, then at least they're there getting their homework done. For Wednesday, it's math teachers and their STEM classes. So STEM is the engineering class. Mr. E is also offering tutoring support and open office hours. And then on Thursday from 2 to 3, there's social studies, art, and wellness classes. So Mr. E and the social studies team are online, as well as Ms. Arndt for art, Mr. Schaefer for wellness, and Ms. V is also offering an additional day of office hours for her students with IEPs and 504s. So this is the schedule for the fall. Nothing will change on this unless the world flip-flops again on us, but this is our online office hours days. Normally we do clubs on Wednesdays, but since we're not really doing clubs online, we have offered additional day of office hours, which I think is very, very wonderful. So my last slide for my section is really talking about how we talk to our students about mastery and foundational and remediation. A lot of times we hear things like, my student is failing, or then kids come to us and say, I'm failing a class. Maybe the student has an 85% in class. To me, I don't know about you, I don't want any student to feel like they're failing with an 85, and certainly I don't want any student to feel like they're failing at all. But what we really have to be careful with is our language surrounding remediation, and making sure that we see remediation as an opportunity for growth instead of a failure. So we're asking that you think about how remediation is talked about and phrased, because at Metro we're trying to foster a growth mindset. So growth mindset means that failure is an opportunity for growth, so that it's expected that you don't master everything the first time, that you're not failing because you got a 70 on your first math test in middle school. That's okay. That's why we have remediation, and it's an opportunity to look at feedback, to get better, to improve, to critically evaluate where your learning gaps are, and to keep working. So one of the things that parents will tell us of graduating middle schoolers is that their student has a lot of grit and a lot of problem-solving skills. So our students look at a problem, they get a test score back, and by the end of 8th grade, they look at that score and they say, okay, what do I have to do to remediate? And even by 7th grade, a lot of times they know right away, what do I do to remediate? And they don't even blink an eye, they don't get upset, they don't feel like it's a failure. Fixed mindset means that failure is the limit of my abilities. I give up, I throw my hands in the air and say, I can't do this. So we're really fostering, and we would love your help phrasing remediation as an opportunity to continue practicing, and really coaching your child through saying, you know, it's a little bit disappointing. I understand why you're a little disappointed. You didn't do as well as you wanted to on your first math test, but it's okay. It's okay. And there's lots of tools and support for you to continue to learn, and that's what school is all about, right? We're not trying to have perfect students, or else we would be out of jobs. But if you have any questions, you can always reach out and email me, Anthony at the Metro School. I probably already called your house a couple times. So feel free to give us a call. We can set up a meeting like this, a phone call, or send emails anytime, okay?